We at Forgotten History have profiled several celebrities, mostly actors who served during times of armed conflict, especially in World War II. But there were men who served in the military and in other wars whose service is not well known, but they are famous. One was a master of deception, blending on screen as one of television's most memorable villains. Yet behind the scenes, Sorrell Booke led a double life far more thrilling than any role he played. He worked in covert operations, using his skills in communication and understanding of human behavior to assist in sensitive tasks. Though the details of his service are shrouded in secrecy, it is said that his military experience helped him develop a keen understanding of strategy and deception, skills that would later serve him well in his career as an actor, especially when portraying complex characters. From the iconic Dukes of Hazzard to covert operations for the U.S. government, this actor had a secret life that would shock even the most hardened spies. Booke's character, Boss Hogg, became one of the most celebrated personalities in TV history, brought to life by a man who was a born actor, entertainer, and a genuine American hero whose many achievements in the military are still classified. But what if the greatest role he ever played was as secret agent? Today we uncover the hidden life of Sorrell Booke, actor, spy, and master of espionage. Who was Sorrell Booke? What did he do? Why was his work so classified? How did he evolve from a counterintelligence operative to actor?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History.
Sorrell Booke was born on January 4, 1930, in Buffalo, New York, the son of a local doctor. As a child, his family encouraged him to entertain relatives by doing impressions of famous celebrities and telling jokes, often writing his own scripts, which he sent to radio stations. He won a radio contest for mimicking the voice of Adolf Hitler and was a regular voice actor on local radio stations WGR and WEBR. He was an excellent student and graduated from Bennett High School as valedictorian of the class of 1946 at age 16. Booke's hard work paid off and evolved into a short-lived professional radio and stage career after high school, frequently appearing in dramatic theater and radio productions. He continued working in radio, earning money for college. In fact, he was a gifted genius who entered Columbia University at age 16, earning his Bachelor of Arts degree at age 19. While at Columbia, he performed in Shakespearean plays in Columbia's Drama Club. In a campus variety show, he played Senator Cottonmouth, portraying a Southern politician. His ability to use perfect accents and imitate actual people amazed his family and fellow students. After graduating from Columbia, he attended Yale University and joined the Skull and Bones Society, earning his Master of Fine Arts degree studying theater and languages. His natural ability at linguistics allowed him to fully master 5 foreign languages fluently, with hardly a trace of an accent, such as French, Japanese, Spanish, Russian, and Italian. He was also conversationally capable in Arabic, Mandarin Chinese, Dutch, Persian, Polish, Swedish, and German. Since the USA still had mandatory military service, Booke was approached by the CIA and U.S. Army due to his skills. Booke decided that the Army would be a better option as it was only a 2-year commitment, and he was commissioned as a second lieutenant and joined military intelligence. During the Korean War, Booke was interviewed and brought into the highly selective and secretive counterintelligence world, the Army's Counterintelligence Corps, where his mastery of languages served him well. Often working with the CIA in Korea, the CIC managed many covert operations which are still classified, and this is where his service gets very murky. The CIC and CIA oversaw interrogations of North Korean and Chinese prisoners of war, and this was where Booke would have flourished. In addition, It is known that there were Soviet advisors and pilots supporting the North Korean and Chinese communists. However, the military intelligence branches, the CIA and NSA and other intelligence gathering organizations did not communicate well with each other. This gap in unified command intelligence gathering and the failure to confirm reliable information in a timely manner was what really hindered American and UN operations. Basically, Allied forces could only respond to communist actions, not anticipate them, and that had to be changed. Having a fluent Russian and Chinese-speaking officer would have made Booke a remarkably high-valued interrogator. A late friend of mine, former CIC agent Sherman Delmage, knew Booke's background and had met him a couple of times in the 1960s and 1970s. According to Delmage, during my interview with him in 1993, there is no way that he would not have been deeply involved in the interrogation of enemy prisoners, especially officers. I heard that a few Russians had been caught, as well as a lot of Chinese, but I cannot confirm the Russians. He would have been in his element, especially with his speaking Russian and Mandarin. I can bet you a lot of that is still classified. During my interviews with retired U.S. Army General Matthew Ridgway many years ago, he mentioned the intelligence work that was being done in Korea. Although he did not know Sorrell Booke and was not involved in that type of work, he said, "Some of the most sensitive work was gathering intelligence, and it was difficult. It was not like in World War II, where we had some native Japanese, Italian, and German speakers who were invaluable in helping collect information. But Chinese and Russian, well, that is a separate set of challenges, as both were involved with the North Koreans." After the Battle of the Chosin Reservoir, and see our video on the Frozen Army, 1,245 Chinese prisoners were captured by the end of December 1950. Many were former supporters of the nationalist Chinese government under Chiang Kai-shek, who had been captured and re-educated, but many defected the first chance they had. From January to April 1951, when General Matthew Ridgway replaced MacArthur as the 8th Army commander, he changed the strategic complexion and allowed his field commanders the freedom to devise their own tactics. This included psychological warfare, and his methods successfully turned around the war in Korea. The UN forces repelled the Chinese Fourth Offensive and launched a counteroffensive. During the intense fighting, more Chinese prisoners were captured. Taking great risks, many defectors escaped and surrendered to the UN troops, including some of the future anti-communist POW leaders. Ridgway oversaw the hiring of more than 70 interpreters from Taiwan, augmented by American, Chinese, and Korean speakers who oversaw interrogations. President Truman then authorized the expansion of the prisoner indoctrination program to include Chinese POWs who went through intense interrogations. Part of the propaganda targeting the Chinese were pamphlets dropped over the lines, written in Mandarin, and loudspeaker broadcast in that language as well as Korean. Signals intelligence was less effective than human intelligence back then, which was just being developed, and was where Booke and his CIC agents came into play. As a result of bad leadership, poor logistics, lack of coordination, and incredible losses, Chinese General Peng Dui's general headquarters, right down to the 3rd Army Group and even down to the 60th Army and the 180th Division, saw massive defections. Disillusioned, disaffected, starving, and morally broken soldiers were a goldmine of information, and their misery was exploited to the UN's advantage. In over 3 months, 15,510 Communist Chinese soldiers were captured, which was more than 70% of the 21,074 Chinese prisoners captured during the entire war, and many of these were defectors. Many were willing defectors who gave up military information. The higher the rank of the POW, the more attention they received from Booke and the other CIC interrogators. The problem was separating POWs from those true defectors from the communist infiltrators, and this is where the CIC work became deeply involved, and language skills as well as trained interrogators were needed. Booke was just what they needed. Some CIC men, as well as Taiwanese and South Korean agents, would wear North Korean or Chinese uniforms, be brought into the POW camps, establish relationships with the other prisoners, and gather intelligence. This information would be compared to the POW's formal interviews, checking for any inconsistencies. Chinese anti-communist prisoners in the prison camps in Pusan and on Koje Island contained more than 150,000 Chinese and North Korean POWs. Unlike the North Korean prisoners, whose military organization remained largely intact, the Chinese communist officers sought to hide their identities to avoid interrogation by G2, CIC, and others, and any persecution by the U.S. Army. Chinese defectors, usually lower-ranking soldiers who were properly vetted by CIC and CIA interrogators, served as trustees, cooperating with G2 and CIC to identify communist officers for interrogation and helping prison authorities arrest communist troublemakers. The approved implementation of the Civil Information and Education Program, basically a re-education project started in August 1952, relied upon educated anti-communist prisoners as the primary instructors. Chinese anti-communist POWs combined communist methods of thought control and mandatory participation with nationalist methods of physical punishment. They established control over the two largest Chinese compounds, 72 and 76, with a combined population of more than 16,000. One result was the hundreds of Chinese and North Korean prisoners who were turned into Allied agents. Between 1951 and early 1954, several hundred Chinese prisoners just disappeared from prison camps and were declared to have escaped. In fact, they had been drafted by a U.S. military intelligence unit of the Far East Command Liaison Detachment, Korea, the 8240th Army Unit, part of the Counterintelligence Corps. After training, they infiltrated back into China and North Korea by air, by sea, or by land, and once their missions were completed, they had to return to the Allied side on foot. More than 200 of these men were killed or captured during their missions, and some of the captured men were executed by the communists, which basically destroyed the best educated and most committed Chinese anti-communist prisoners turned into assets. Several of the survivors were interviewed, with 70 of them going to Taiwan. Their debriefings garnered intelligence, but also detailed their narrow escapes from death and the loss of their comrades. Booke and the CIC handled these interrogations as well. The success of Booke and his fellow CIC, CIA, and G2 officials resulted in an amazing event. In the anti-communist controlled compounds 72 and 86, more than 85% of the 16,000 prisoners refused repatriation back to China, and they provided a lot of information. Anti-communist Chinese soldiers were released to Taiwan in January 1954, with 12 Chinese and 76 Korean prisoners choosing neutral nations, and most went to India and a couple went to Argentina. Their contact with the Americans who treated them well changed their ideology. Many became very cooperative. A large part of this information gathering was trying to learn the locations and fates of Allied missing in action and those held as POWs in Korea and in China. According to Ridgway, I did not want any missing men unaccounted for if at all possible, and we had very limited information on where our soldiers were being held and if they were even alive. This is critical information. The interrogations did reveal many of the prison camps in China and North Korea, which were marked on maps, and this information was used during the 1953 peace talks. Having the knowledge of Allied POWs, conditions, those who died in their camp locations in North Korea and China, came as a great surprise to the communists who had no intention of releasing anyone. Also of interest, it was well known, although not reported, that Soviet advisors and pilots were supporting the Chinese and North Koreans, but having proof was hard to get unless they captured a Soviet soldier or pilot. Through interrogation with a few North Korean and Chinese pilots who flew with the Russians, and they were shot down themselves, this was confirmed. The United Nations Command under U.S. authorization devised Operation Moolah, offering a reward of $100,000 and political asylum, hoping a MiG pilot would defect to South Korea with a MiG-15 for testing. North Korean pilot Lieutenant No Kum-sok eventually defected in September 1953 and claimed to be unaware of the reward, giving the U.S. Air Force a fully operational MiG-15 for testing, which was critical to air intelligence. No Kum-sok was more than willing to discuss the Soviets they flew with as well as the Chinese and seemed unhesitant in his debriefings, and CIC along with the CIA handled these. He confirmed the presence of Russian pilots. In fact, although the Soviet Union never acknowledged its participation in the conflict, the U.S. did have the evidence. Soviet pilots, though forbidden from communicating in any language other than basic Korean, often spoke Russian when stressed or when swearing or in combat. These communications proved Soviet involvement as they were captured by military intelligence, and the audio would be translated by CIC Russian speakers, such as Booke. After his service was over, Booke acted off-Broadway in a variety of shows, until he made his Broadway debut in 1956 in Michael Redgrave's production of The Sleeping Prince. Other roles and performances followed, leading to a career in film and television. All told, he had 171 film and TV credits during his career. In 1958, he married Miranda Knickerbocker, and they had 2 children, Alexandra and Nicholas. They divorced in 1973, but Booke was in high demand as a character actor, and he landed roles in dozens of the most popular TV shows from the 1950s to the 1980s. Such TV shows were Gunsmoke, Cannon, Ironside, Route 66, Hawaii Five-0, The Rockford Files, Full House, The Guiding Light, Black Sheep Squadron, The Patty Duke Show, 12 O'Clock High, Dr. Kildare, MASH, All in the Family, Soap, Good Times, Columbo, but he still had film roles. But it was the Dukes of Hazzard that made him a legend, and he copied Boss Hogg's American Southern drawl from listening to U.S. Senators Sam Ervin and Strom Thurmond, whom he thought were clowns. Although personally he believed that his Boss Hogg character was a despicable person, he still enjoyed meeting fans of the show, and he was always friendly. Booke wanted to appear like a well-fed, pompous Southern Huey Long type of character, so he wore a padded suit under his trademark white business suit, making him look overweight, and he adopted a distinctive waddle or duck walk to add to the character. According to co-star John Schneider, regarding the taping of the first season of The Dukes of Hazzard, in one episode, Booke and guest star Andrew Robinson, who also spoke Japanese, played a trick on James Best, who played Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane. Booke and Robinson spoke all of their dialogue in a scene in Japanese, totally confusing Best. Once on the set, a group of Japanese tourists arrived, and Booke took over as the tour guide speaking to them in Japanese. He also smoked cigars on the set as part of his character, but while filming, he usually smoked cigarettes. He also worked as a voice actor in the 1980s and early 1990s for voiceovers and animated children's shows and cartoons such as Scooby-Doo. A talented classical musician as well, he was a guest conductor at the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra. Sorrell Booke was a gifted carpenter and self-trained handyman, and he was also a very frugal person with a good business head. He would buy and personally restore rundown houses and then flip them for a profit. Despite being one of TV's biggest stars, he lived in a modest home in Los Angeles, not in Beverly Hills, Bel Air, or Malibu, and he grew his own vegetables, did his own landscaping and gardening. On February 11, 1994, Sorrell Booke died of colorectal cancer in Sherman Oaks, California, just after his 64th birthday, and was buried at the Jewish cemetery, Hillside Memorial Park Cemetery in Culver City, California. His tombstone bears the inscription, "Beloved Father, Grandfather, Brother, and Boss," in tribute to his role as the character Boss Hogg, which cemented his legacy as a beloved and legendary actor.
Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you liked what you saw, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to assist with the ever-increasing cost of production, please consider becoming a channel member and joining our Patreon page. Please check out our merchandise store. And thanks for watching.